The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. Nanaimo's 5-pin bowling alley is nearing its final frames. Brechin Lanes owner Ray Brittain is planning to sell the business that's been in his family for more than 50 years, citing rising costs and competition from a foreign-owned chain worth roughly $1 billion Canadian dollars. On Tuesday, I paid a visit to Brechin Lanes to learn about its past, present, and what remains of its future.
My name is Ray Brittain. I'm the owner of Brechin Lanes Bowling Centre. I've been the owner for 22 years. My dad was the owner before that, so we've got a couple of generations in this business.
Yeah, we're here at Brechin Lanes having this conversation, and that's kind of where I wanted to begin. I wanted to begin with that history, what has happened in this place. So over 50 years it's been in your family. What's the story?
So the story is, my dad was a bowler, a 5-pin bowler, and Brechin Lanes, when it was built in 1956, was built on Waddington Road, and it is now an optometrist and orthodontist office. So they had 6 lanes. My dad was a bowler, and in 1967, he was asked by the owner if he would like to purchase it. At the time, my dad was a logging truck driver, so he said yes, because he had a family on the way. He had just been married, so he and my mom purchased Brechin Lanes. My dad's name was John Brittain, my mom Louise, and he would drive logging truck during the day and run the bowling center at night. And at the time, he had pin boys. So in 1967, he had teenage boys that would sit at the back, and when a pin got knocked down, they would get them out of the way. And when they needed to be reset, they would reset them, put the balls back. So he did that for a couple of years. In 1969, he put in automatic pin setting machines. And shockingly, those 6 pin setting machines are still working on lanes 1 to 6 now. So bowling was so popular back then that in 1978, he bought the property that we're sitting in on East Wellington Road. And we've got 16 lanes here. So those 10 new machines are still going today. And in about 2002, my wife and I decided that we were interested in the business. I had gotten a business degree, been working in banking, and I realized this was a good opportunity. So that's where we came onto the scene 22 years ago.
So you must have grown up with this place, maybe grown up in this place. Can you tell me what that was like?
Yes. Yes, there's pictures of me and my brothers when the building was being erected. You know, they're pouring the concrete for the walls, and there's nothing here. So I was 3 years old at the time. And you're right, I did grow up here. It was my first job, obviously. Started working here when I think I was 12. And my kids actually have worked here as well. So it's continued to be a family business. We spent lots of birthdays here. My school class always got to come bowling for free, which, you know, the kids in my class really thought was cool because we get to go bowling, and that was a big thing back then.
The center is a 5-pin bowling center. Can you tell me maybe about the unique place, or maybe the Canadiana related to 5-pin bowling?
Yes, you're right. It is. A lot of people don't realize that 5-pin bowling is only in Canada. It was invented in 1909 in Toronto. And so the only place you can 5-pin bowl is in Canada. And a lot of people like it because it does seem to have a wider demographic because of the smaller, lighter bowling balls. We do a lot of youth birthday parties, and we have fairly popular seniors leagues. So we kind of run the gamut in terms of who can bowl, because anybody can, down to, we've got 3 and 4 year olds. We start league bowling at 4 years old. They bowl one game, and we've got league bowlers as old as, 95, because they can all do it. It's a 3.5 pound ball. It's not a, 11 or 14 pound ball.
And we've talked about the history of this place. I'm wondering a little bit about maybe the reason for our conversation, the future of Brechin Lanes.
Yeah, so Brechin Lanes is currently for sale. We listed it for sale in November. We just got to the point where the costs of doing business are just extremely high. To be specific, our property taxes are going to be $50,000 this year. We've got a 13,500 square foot building and an acre and a quarter. And that's just, it's more than this type of business can handle. We've tried to do things in the past. We had a couple of escape rooms and they've been great. But, you know, wages are going up, insurance is going up. I was looking at an article online, a bowling center in the States, you know, their insurance was, you know, 4 years ago, it was about $15,000. Then it went up to $30,000. And well, this year, fast forward, it's in the $60,000 range. And some bowling centers are having trouble getting insurance at all. So all of these costs are going up, wages, you know, food costs. And I just feel like there's only so much that people are willing to pay for a game of bowling. And so we just made the decision that, you know, we do own the land and building. And this seems to be our option. I mean, we've got another bowling center in town. A lot of people don't realize they're owned by a $1 million company out of England. And so I had contracted a company to do some blueprints and we were going to do a massive renovation, add an arcade, take out 4 lanes. And it looked great. You know, everybody I showed it to said, that's amazing. Why aren't you going to do that? Well, it's because borrowing $700,000 at today's interest rates are not very appealing. And I'm not young but I'm not old, but I don't want to be saddled with massive interest payments. Because I just feel like if I do something phenomenal, the risk is that we've got that $1 million company literally up the street. They could come in and spend $1 million and just make it better. And then my family is stuck with those payments and I just don't want to do that. So we've decided that rather than let our business, you know, go down the drain and not worry about any maintenance and cut costs, it seems like it's time to sell.
You're very involved in the bowling community, obviously. You've been around it your whole life. You're the president of Bowl Canada. With that perspective, are these kind of trends you're seeing maybe across the board nationwide? Yeah,
everybody's costs are going up. There are certainly people in different parts of the world or different parts of the country where their expenses aren't as high. I talked to some of my colleagues and they think our property taxes are quite high. So it's great that they're able to handle their payments. A lot of my colleagues are putting in the arcades and doing very well with it. But they also tend to be in places where there's not another bowling center. So some of my colleagues have both 5-pin and 10-pin, which makes sense. And some are doing really well with the arcades. But like I said, they don't have the competition that we have.
And can you tell me maybe about the bowling community on Vancouver Island? I know recently there were championships here. What is it like?
On Vancouver Island, we have some very rabid bowlers. I guess on Vancouver Island, we have some very avid bowlers. They really enjoy bowling. We have the annual Vancouver Island Championship. We just had I think it was the 36th annual Vancouver Island Championship. And each bowling center on Vancouver Island will put together a team, and then they meet in a bowling center. This year was Port Alberni, and our men's team did very well. They won I guess they won last year as well. And our ladies team finished second. And it's a good time. It's something that our bowlers can do and look forward to every year. It's really good competition. And we've had good luck. Our Vancouver Island ladies team actually won the BC Open, so they're off to Ottawa in a week and a half to compete for the national title.
And that's all 5-pin. What's the difference on the kind of national level of competition, 5-pin versus 10-pin? Do they both exist and kind of are equal?
So in 10-pin, you can actually go internationally. Canadian bowlers have done very well on the international stage as well. But for 5-pin, the pinnacle is the national championships. So that is our main competition. So if you're a 5-pin bowler, you're looking to win the nationals because you can't go any higher than that.
And can you tell me maybe about, talked there about the national championship and the glory and the accolades. But what about on a day-to-day, week-to-week level? What is the bowling community like here? What kind of leagues are there? How many folks are involved?
So we actually have the largest youth bowling program in BC. We have for the past couple of years, and that's a testament to the fact that we've got excellent coaches. I believe we actually have more youth bowlers in our program than all of the other bowling centers on the island combined, 5 and 10 pin included. So that's pretty phenomenal. We do have a ladies league. We have a couple of senior leagues as well as some evening mixed leagues. But the strength of our league seems to be our youth because, like I said, we do have the strongest youth program.
And do you have a timeline on when you're expecting to maybe sell, what you're expecting to happen?
So we actually have a deal in the works, and I can't give away too many details on what their plans are, but it does seem like they are solely interested in the building. So they will repurpose the building for something else. My hope is that I'll be able to sell the equipment to somebody else locally, and maybe somebody else can make a go of operating a bowling center in Nanaimo. Now, I understand the trick is going to be finding a place and then being successful at it. Because I'm fully aware of the challenges of operating this business, but I will be able to sell the equipment, and if I can't sell it locally, hopefully I'll sell it to somebody else who's going to build a 5-pin center. Maybe somebody will put a couple of lanes in their house. Who knows? But yeah, no, I hope that they'll find new life somewhere else, and they don't just end up in a dumpster somewhere.
What are the I would imagine there aren't very many people locally who would know more or have more experience running a bowling alley. What are some of the considerations? How could things look different and maybe work for someone locally to own a business, run a bowling alley, when, you've mentioned the conditions in our world are changing such that it's just a harder thing to do on a mom and pop level?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure.
obviously, are there things that have changed maybe more? I think everyone in every sector is kind of used to talking about inflation and the cost of X, Y, and Z going up. But are there specific aspects of that you feel like for you as a bowling center maybe have hit harder than others?
Well, I've always wanted to keep it very family friendly. So when my dad owned the bowling center, he didn't have a liquor license. So I felt like we were losing business as a result. So it was only about 12 or it might be 15 years ago now that we applied for and got a liquor license. However, I don't really push it. I don't drink myself, so it's not a real, hot button for me. But I know that if somebody else came in, they could probably make a lot of money on selling alcohol. It's just not something that I've ever wanted to do. But like I said, I felt like we were losing like the corporate parties and that sort of thing. So we got the liquor license. We just sell beer, wine, and coolers. We don't do mixed drinks. But I think if somebody else came in, they could probably do okay with that. We have a fairly simple food operation with pizza, etc. But I think somebody could probably come in and do a little bit better than we have on food and beverage sales, which also may increase your public bowling in your kind of 18 to 35 crowd, which I feel like we've never really done great with. I think the other bowling center focuses on that. We just haven't been able to crack that market very well.
And I guess one of the things that jumps out to me is, a bowling lane itself requires a certain amount of length, a certain amount of space, a certain amount of property, and it sounds like that's a major factor in driving up the property taxes.
For sure, yeah. That is one of the reasons that I think you're seeing a decline in bowling, because they do require so much space. The ones in the basements of shopping centers seem to do okay, because what else are you going to put in a basement of a shopping center? And there's actually quite a few of them. I know Alberta has quite a few fairly large centers that you go downstairs and significant shopping malls and there's a bowling alley, but what else is the mall going to put there? So the mall is just happy to have their lease payments. But for owning the land and the building is very challenging for mom and pop such as us. I mean, for us, we've got building maintenance, and our roof, I know, needs to be done. And I've heard numbers as high as $200,000. And that's just not possible for us.
Midcoast Morning. We'll be right back.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Support Midcoast Morning and CHLY's nonprofit newsroom today by becoming a sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. Local news can't survive without your support. Another way to help us out is to share this show with your friends and tell them why they should support us. Finally, if you're listening to the podcast edition of Midcoast Morning, go and give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast feed you use. It helps people find us.
We're talking bowling on today's program. The future of the 5-pin game in Nanaimo is in doubt as a family business nears the end of the road. I'm speaking with Brechin Lanes owner Ray Brittain, who I visited at his bowling alley Tuesday morning. Brittain is planning on selling the business, and it's not expected that the new owner will keep operating it as a bowling alley. Brittain's hoping someone else might be interested in picking up some of the equipment to keep 5-pin bowling going in Nanaimo. Are there any maybe memories that you have of this place that you want to maybe share, to keep alive?
Well, we have, actually right behind us, we've got the Perfect Game plaque. So since we've been here, 1978, so that's a very long time. We've only had 5 perfect games, and actually we just had the first ladies' perfect game ever on Vancouver Island here. So those are always very exciting. So the first one was in 1992. It took 14 years to get the first perfect game. And then we had one in 2002, 2005, 2010, and then 2023. So it's very rare. But to have those, I know there's some bowling centers that'll never have a perfect game. So I think things like that are testament to how well the lanes are maintained to make that kind of scoring possible. Things like that are very, those will always be good memories. Having my kids' birthday parties here will be great. We added glow-in-the-dark bowling, which we were the first ones in Nanaimo to do that. We have been voted the number 1 place for a birthday party, and we're always in the top 3. So those are always really cool memories, and those are some things that I'll remember forever.
If there is, kind of the sale has a closing date, and there's a day where we know will be Brechin Lane's last day, is there anything maybe special going to take place between when you figure that out and when the end is?
Yes, we've talked about doing like an open house or an open house weekend where, you can come and just relive your memories. We've actually had, since it was published that we will be selling, we actually have had some people coming in. Just a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, there was a married couple, and they came in, they said this was where their first date was. And they're married now. So that's pretty neat. And we actually have had some married couples who met in a bowling league, which is really cool.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with people about your experience or the situation now?
I just, want to thank the community. We've obviously been here for quite a few years. I always look to see what other bowling centers' Google rating is. So we're 4.7, which is pretty darn good. So I've looked around and I can't find any ones that are higher with, more than about 50 reviews. So clearly we're doing something right.
Going out on a high note, maybe.
Absolutely.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for taking the time and welcoming me into this space.
Thanks, Joe.
Ray Brittain is the owner of Brechin Lanes and the president of Bowl Canada. After our conversation, he took me for a tour behind the lanes.
Here we go. These are the ones that went in 1969, and they're still going strong. Made in Switzerland.
Ray showed me an ancient-looking circuit board behind the pin resetting machine.
So this is the inside. Actually, let me go turn it on quickly, because when that does its thing, it's very cool to watch. I'll be right back.
The pin resetters surge to life.
If you keep an eye on these things, I'm just going to hit it straight. You'll see a bunch of these click in. It's very cool. Isn't that wild? And if I reset it.
It looks like a computer that a 1940s World War II code breaker would use.
Yeah. We went strong. All 16 lanes work. Yeah, you can tell they're just the design of the motors is just looks ancient.
So the ones that aren't the original machines, when are they from?
These guys, 1978. So they've got some of them. We've got the door of the circuit boards off. You can kind of see in there. It's all solid state wires.
Do they have an expected life?
I hope forever. But it does get a little bit more difficult to find parts for them. But this is all of our spare parts down here. So I've learned to become an electrician over the years. And these are things I need to learn how to fix.
As we headed back out from behind the lanes, things had opened up and a few groups were starting to trickle in. Oh, nice folks.
Here we go. We get lots of special needs groups in here. So it's going to be tough for them. You're going to have to figure out your activity.
Also heading in to throw a few games Tuesday morning was Murray McLaughlin, who's been bowling at Brechin Lanes for decades.
My name's Murray McLaughlin. I'm a local bowler here. Love the place.
And how long have you been coming here?
Oh, since it opened here. Actually, before, when it used to be over on Waddington Street, when his dad owned it, I used to bowl there.
No way.
Yeah, well over 50 years.
You like a league bowler?
Oh, yeah, twice a week league bowling. And actually, right now, I come here every single day.
So what does this place mean to you?
Life for me. It's everything. Like, am I allowed to say I don't want to see it go anywhere? I'd love to see it continue to be a bowling center.
Yeah, can you tell me maybe what was it like when did you first hear the news that the place was for sale? It was probably going to be winding up soon.
I think it was around February that I first heard from Ray that it was up for sale, and right away I was like, "Holy, I better win the lottery."
And you were recently at the Vancouver Island Bowling Championships as well, right? Can you tell me about those?
They were a lot of fun. I didn't do so well, but our center did okay, I guess. But that's one of the main things why we bowl here is to compete in that Island Championship at the end of the bowling year.
Can you tell me maybe a bit about, so this is a 5-pin center. What for you is the 5-pin, 10-pin distinction?
For me, I'm 5'2", I weigh 100 pounds. I cannot throw a good 10-pin ball. I'm too small. So that's for me. It just doesn't work. This is the game I play. I wish I was bigger and could throw a heavier ball, but no, I can't. So that's what the main difference is for myself.
If this place were to close, what do you think? What would you do? Would you go kind of elsewhere on the island?
Yeah, I'm already bowling one night a week in Duncan, and I'm about to go try to see how the bus schedule, I don't drive, so to see how the bus schedule works to get me to Parksville.
If you did win the lottery, would that be your play? Would you be looking to buy from Ray and take things over?
Yeah, I'd be willing to put anything into keeping it, maybe not here, but keeping 5-pin bowling in Nanaimo somewhere would be right up my alley.
Do you have any favorite memories of your time in this place that you'd want to share with people that you want to keep alive?
When I watched the Perfect Games be bowled, I've seen 3 of them in this place out of 5 that have been bowled here. I was here for 3 of them. That's definitely a thrill of a lifetime, just because it doesn't happen very often.
What's it like watching a perfect game? I don't know. I'm a big baseball fan. It's maybe I think of like a no-hitter or a perfect game in baseball, and it's kind of like the 5th inning you start to get a little excited. Is it like that?
Oh, yeah, totally. The place goes right quiet when you got 8 or 9 strikes in a row. Everybody's watching, there's a lot of pressure just watching. It's a lot of pressure on you.
What's your high score as a bowler in your lifetime?
403.
And remind folks, how does the scoring work in a 5-pin? What's a perfect game?
A perfect game in 5-pin is 450. That's 12 strikes in a row. Sounds easy to do. It's almost impossible.
And is there anything else you'd want to share with folks in Nanaimo, maybe folks who've never been out to Brechin Lanes, about what it means for the community that comes here?
If they get a chance, come out and try it before it's closed down, because it ain't going to last much longer.
Murray, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Joe.
Longtime bowler Murray McLaughlin speaking with me at Nanaimo's Brechin Lanes. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Salish Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. If you're already a supporter, record a voice memo telling others where you're listening from and why they too should support our work. After you're done, you can email it to us. Also, share the podcast with your friends. While Meta is blocking Canadian users from sharing news content on their Facebook feeds, you can still share our podcast directly with your friends via Facebook or Instagram Messenger. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.